of actually trying to. I have like my little thing here, like where I keep track with all of my stuff. But even with that, I'm at my 17th one that I've done so far. So I say that, but you have a lot of opportunities that come up. You'll try to get quotes from and they just fall through. So yeah, I'd say it took about 8 months from the time I got my cage code till my first award.
My amazing GovCon winners, we have Krystyn Nixon, who has the greatest name ever, with Apex Procurement Solutions and the best business name ever, to talk about her government contracting wins. So Krystyn, I want to welcome you to the channel.
Thank you.
So talk to us. First and foremost, what do you do and how did you get into government contracting?
Yeah, so I am, I guess my corporate title from before government contracting was project manager. So I've been in that for quite some time. I think that I think I stumbled upon it, if I'm remembering correctly. I was out on a girls trip in Tennessee. I had ran into this guy and he was like, hanging out with everybody, and he gave me his business card, and I ended up setting up a meeting with my husband, and he ended up talking to us about government contracts like locally. And then maybe a couple months later, I stumbled across it on YouTube, and I figured I'll give it a go because I felt like my skills were transferable from dealing with the oil and gas project management over into like government contracting. Because as I understand it, it's very similar. Like you have to manage the project from beginning to end, whether it's a product or a service.
Well, I love that. I love that like during a girls trip, there's some person talking about government contracting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's great. And I love your project management background because you always got to manage a project, even if it's selling electronics, if it's services, you still have to manage it. So what was it like? You're like, okay, it's transferable. We met this person. Did you immediately say, oh my gosh, okay, I'm going to get a cage code. I'm going to win these contracts. Woo! I mean, like, what were the steps?
So initially, whenever I met that man out, so anytime I go out, I'm always trying to, gain business. So my husband has a business. So I was like, I had his business cards with me at the time. That's kind of how the conversation started, because I realized that the man was on like a corporate trip. So I was like, hey, my husband has an auto transport business. Like, hey, do you ever have to transport vehicles? There was call. That's how the call had kind of went on from over there. But essentially speaking, I started looking up Houston contracts. I saw all the information that was needed for that. So I started local first. So I set up everything under his stuff. And then I think in December of last year, I had stumbled across a video. I'll send it to you later, baby, but I can't remember exactly what the creator was. But they're basically talking about how to get started with cage code and how to do the federal level. So I found that interesting, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just give it a shot. I just did all the information, and I just kind of set it and left it. And then I remember a couple weeks later, I got all the information back. I guess my stuff was approved. Kind of a blur a little bit because it was last Christmas season. But yeah, that's how I ended up getting my cage code. So it took probably like 4 months between whenever I first spoke to the man and I started trying with local until I actually tried like in December and got my cage code and started on the federal level. So I had like this instance, I think it was supplying janitorial supplies. I was like, oh, well, I'll just at least try it and see what happens. So that was the first one I tried as well, was around December.
And so you get the cage code.
Mm-hmm.
And what were some of the opportunities that you decided to bid on?
At that point, initially when we first started, I think I was like kind of just clicking around because I didn't really understand SAM at the time. But I tried initially janitorial, like everyone tells you, oh, just go to janitorial. And then I realized how saturated it was, for one. And then two, I felt like I felt like the cons may have outweighed the benefits in my personal opinion, because it felt like it was so much work for people, and I didn't want to lowball people because I feel like there's energy and money, and I didn't want to do that. So, which is fine for the people. If it works for them, but for me, that was not what I wanted to do at that time. But fast forwarding to whenever I did your challenge, I think that was like in May or something. That's when I started really trying to diversify and taking it really serious. So now I try to do a lot of stuff with, like, I like waste management. I always tell people I'm the bleep word. We like doing like waste management contracts. I like doing grovel things. Transportation, obviously. We do a lot of hay, have been a lot of the source of stock things that we've done. So I try to find things that me and my husband are really essentially subject matter experts on. And that would be, I guess, easy for us to be able to actually manage and know what we're talking about with the vendor and obviously with the government. So those are kind of like where we're at now. But yeah, initially when we first started, it was more like janitorial, or kind of just trying to like click around and figure it out, whatever seemed like it may work.
Right. And so make sure I heard you correctly. So did you say hay, like hay and like a hay run?
Yeah, like alfalfa hay. Yeah, my husband is very country, so we live in Texas. But yeah, you like a lot of them I think were for USDA, a lot of the products we were looking at. But a lot of alfalfa hay may have like all these percentages and stuff, but that's stuff that he's extremely knowledgeable about. So he's able to call the vendor and like not just be another person trying to quote, he's able to build a relationship with them and like figure out their pain points. And then they're like, okay, you know what, let me cut you a deal on it. Or, okay, yeah, like I actually do want to work with you, because a lot of these people who are doing the hay or the hay farmers don't want to deal with us calling them. They just want to sell their hay and be done. So I think by leveraging his expertise and having him call the people, he knows how to talk to them.
Because when they know, like, and trust you and they get that good vibe, then they're going to want to give a discount. They're going to want to work with you. Otherwise, they're just going to come up with an excuse not to give somebody a price quote.
Yeah. And I know you say that a lot about like, CEOs and stuff about them know, liking, and trusting you. But I think a lot of people don't realize it's incredibly important for your vendor to know, like, and trust you, because there's going to be times where we have to have difficult conversations, or I need a report from you and things like that. And if they like you, they'll be more, I guess, they'll sometimes try to be more on time. They'll try to be more efficient, more effective, communicate with you better, instead if you're just not being very kind to them.
Right. And so walk us through the very first win. What was it for? Which agency?
So as you saw, I watched the video of the Middleman video that you had up, and I really, really loved it. And ironically, ours was with NOAA. So I remember hearing a lot about, y'all talking about NOAA on that one. So it's for sewage pump off one of their ships that'll be in the Bay Area in about the next 10 days. So I remember whenever I went through the links and clicked through everything, but I think the night before I had watched one of your videos, and you had a matrix. And at first, this is why it's really important that even if you know stuff, to still watch it. I'm like, oh, well, I know about matrix. I'm like, you know what? Now let me just listen to the video, because kids know stuff. So I watched the video, and I remember you saying something about pulling out the information and dropping it. And I did that. And I had been working on this proposal for maybe a week or so. And the day that I was going to submit it, I was like, okay, let me go ahead and try the matrix that the lady told me to do. And I did it. And I found that I was not supposed to email the proposal. You know how so many of them are like, email it. You have to go through the link. And thank God that I watched your video and you had that tidbit in there, because I caught that, and that may have like not resulted in the best outcome for me. So I was able to do that. I submitted it through the link. We got our vendors, all that stuff. They sent everything that we needed for them to send. I used my beloved ChatGPT, and I fed it the information so that way it would give me what I wanted, cross-checked everything, and then we sent it off. And then I don't know if you remember, I had posted in the group asking, hey, like, where is this little invoicing thing coming from? Trying to figure out like how did this happen in the very first place. And I think maybe 3 days after that, we were awarded the contract. So it was really fast. I want to say it was about a week turnaround from whenever I submitted it to the actual award date. So it was really, really exciting. And then it hit me because like I am a project manager, so I know, okay, we won it. Now here goes the work. So that's where we're at now.
Yes. And what I love is that and this goes for me too. Like, despite being in the space for 15 years, I always have to go back through things. I watch things, because the fact that you caught, hey, you got to go to a link, and NOAA's not the only one. There's other agencies where they may require that you do that. So you caught that, you submitted it, and then I do remember you posted in the Facebook group, you're like, oh, I got this email from this IPP. Is this a good sign? And it is a good sign, because now IPP will only contact you once you get an award. And it's a beautiful system. It's actually one of my favorite systems to use for payment. So has the work already begun?
No, so it begins in 9 days. Ooh. So I'm really excited for that. It's a quick turnaround project. It's about 10 days. But yeah, I also remember watching another one of your videos where you had the waste management proposal right through that you had done. And you had put 2 options on there. And so we did the same thing. We had 2 different option pricing, and then they sent over everything. But I will say, with the government shutdown that's temporarily not shut down, we did hit a roadblock, because I was like, hey, I'm reaching out. How will there be any impacts? And if there are, what would it be? So I was kind of holding my breath a little bit, because initially, if the shutdown had went through, they were going to reroute the ship. So I was like, okay, well, let me try to be proactive and find someone else who could do it in the new location. So, but thank God everything worked out, and we have 45 days or 43 days or something like that.
We do.
Yeah.
But it's great that you're being proactive. You're following the news. You're aware of everything going on. And then just to walk through things. So basically, I mean, you got your cage coat, like what, in less than 8 months?
Yeah.
When your first contract?
Yeah, but I would say, like, honestly, that first night in December, I just did it just to see if I could do it. I probably really wasn't submitting really hard until late May, early June. So I'm actually trying to. I have like my little thing here, like where I keep track with all of my stuff. But even with that, I'm at my 17th one that I've done so far. So I'd say that, but you know, you have a lot of opportunities that come up. You'll try to get quotes from and they just fall through. So that's kind of where we're at now. So yeah, I'd say it took about 8 months from the time I got my cage code till my first award.
No, I love this. I love that you did it at your pace, but you were still taking steps. It wasn't like, oh, I've had my cage code for 5 years. No, you were like, okay, I'm going to bid on something, and then all of these things. So I think that's tremendous. What are you, well, and also, because some people may be wondering, do you have any set-asides other than small business?
No, not yet. The goal is to eventually have a woman-owned business, so I want to have it all under me eventually. But for right now, we're a DBA underneath my husband's business, so it's bleeding up into that, and it's male-owned for now. But it'll be women-owned soon.
No, but that's great. That's great, because for woman-owned set-aside, service disabled, veteran-owned, hub zone, and 8A, right now you can get sole source for $4.5 million.
And that's what I'm talking about. Especially athletic future again about the 8A.
Yes, that is very true. That is super true. So what are some things, Krystyn, that you're looking to bid on with this?
I'm really enjoying construction. So I think overall, I really like the federal, but I've been also looking for local stuff. I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of construction happening around me. I live in Houston. So let me look at some stuff around here. So I think that because of my background, understanding like how construction works and being able to actually put my eyes on it and like the PM stuff, I think that that would also benefit me a lot. But anything really that I've been able to get, even if obviously if the award didn't go through, just the relationships I've built, I think it's easier for me to go back to those people and ask for like, you know, hey, can I also get a quote on this or things like that. So I think we want to stay with construction and gravel, asphalt, things like that. And then obviously, I guess like waste management, sewage type things, because it's dirt. It's not dirty money, but dirty money might be good. You know what I mean? Like it's dirty jobs or whatever. So
right.
It's always the things that people don't want to do that I think that end up paying you well, but also they're easier to manage in my personal opinion. Just because it's less moving parts, right? It's not like a construction where you have to worry about like excavators and all this other stuff and dump trucks and granted you have to have a pump truck. You don't have as much stuff happening with that.
Right. And it's great because you're creating your own ocean. And as you started out saying, a lot of people are like, oh, I heard janitorial. And yeah, there's janitorial work. I've interviewed tons of people who have won janitorial work, but also it's like you can do other things. I mean, there's hay. I mean, goodness. I mean, it's amazing what you can sell.
Yeah, I think I was just really like, I wanted to do it so bad. And I think that especially having my cage code for a couple months, it's easy to get yourself into like not the best headspace, right? And I think that by doing only janitorial, sometimes people will be like, well, why am I not winning? Why am I not winning? And I think you have to realize that for one, it's not you. And it's such an oversaturated space that you're over here bidding for something that has like 100 people, where this one over here has like 5. Like I think the one I won had 3 people like total that submitted offers. So I think you have to really place yourself in the right space, especially like us newbies who are still trying to like, you know, get our past performance up. You have to set yourself up to succeed.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult with your mind. So you got to keep that in check.
You do. You definitely have to keep it in check because it all starts here. If somebody believes like, oh, why are they going to buy from me? I'm never going to win. Then we get what we put out there. And if it's like, okay, try janitorial, let me pivot. You have the background in project management. You're able to handle oil and gas. There's no reason you can't manage these other things. And so you have proper mindset to keep excelling.
Yeah. And I think that is so huge, you know, because people always tell us to like mind our mouths and watch our mouths. But if you can master your mind, you know, you won't have to worry about it, because it's already mastered in your mind. And I grew up like in a church, so I was always like, oh, you know, there's power in the tongue and all this other stuff. So it's like, we really have to be careful about what we say and what we think about ourselves, because like you said, as you think it, like that's what's gonna come, babe. Like you have to be really careful about these things. So I think I put it into my mind, like, why not me? Like, why would they not choose me? And I feel like you just have to really think that you are the best. at doing this. Like, there's no one that could do this better than you, and you will start to see those things. I heard this quote that said, there's fortune in your faith. And that's very true. Like, if you really want things to go your way and be financially free and win these contracts, like, you really have to have faith in yourself and in the process. So you don't have to know it all. You don't have to have like this long list of like all the great set asides. You just have to believe in yourself and put your best foot forward. It's kind of like what worked for me. So I could do it.
Right, which I concur. And it's so good that you said that, because some think, well, hold on, I got to get all these set asides and then I'll bid. And the thing is, over and over and over again, I find that most are like you. They win with a small business set aside, or maybe in SDVOSB, only because that sometimes may take a whopping week right now to get it. So, but that makes sense. And so you don't need to have all of these set asides. And then when you get these set asides, you got to work the set asides. It's not just easy as just, I'm gonna bid on something. So right. I love this. What are some things, now that you have the contract coming up, the actual executing of it, what are some things that you've already learned and maybe you wish you knew just a couple months ago?
I would say it's kind of like learning it from other people. Making sure, and I should know better, but make sure you have your teaming agreement and making sure that it encompasses everything. I think that one of the difficult spaces is like be new. And although we know that that's how a lot of services work, like asking people, hey, can I have them at 30? And like, I know you don't know me, but trust me, I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? So I think that being confident in your ability to ask people that, I wish I would have known that initially, but also making sure I had a teaming agreement, because I don't want to end up with everything going awry or people saying I not pay them in time, like making sure that I have everything on there the way it's supposed to be. And I think the biggest thing that I wish I would have known goes back to what we were just talking about. Like, I wish I would have thought that I was the absolute best initially. Like, I think that having that and changing my mindset has really helped push me forward. And I think that a lot of people think it's woo-woo and all this other stuff, but it literally is. Because I remember when we were kids, you pretend to be sick and then you got sick. It's kind of like the same thing. It's like you are what you think. And I really wish that I would have had more of I can do this, instead of almost think that because I have like a background that it's going to be so easy for me. I think that I should have had more of a mindset of I can do it. I can put my best foot forward and go from there. So just worrying about like, how am I going to apply everything? That makes sense.
Right. I mean, it's so powerful. We become what we say. And by framing it like you're the best, you can do it, it's going to all work out, it's going to be amazing, you're going to be profitable, it will all happen, because especially for you, you have everything that's needed. Project management, the industry experience. So it's my opinion, if you can handle commercial world and industry and things like that, you can definitely handle government contracting. So you have all of those things there. As far as for people who would love to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them, Krystyn, to get in contact?
I would say through the group. I think that now I started trying to comment more and be more helpful in the spaces that I know about getting information. So I would say in the group, you can just type in my name, Krystyn, and then I'll pop up. I'm underneath somebody's post somewhere. So that's probably the best way to get in contact with me. But yeah, and I'll be happy to help with anything or reach out to anybody. I know that someone had asked me to make a video for them about how I organize my stuff. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, just message me, ping me.
I love that. And I'll make sure that the link to the Facebook group is in the comments, because it's a great group to join. If you haven't already, if you are in there, post like a question. It's best if you have a question, not just, hey, I'm new, what do I do? And sometimes say, well, I don't really know what to ask. So maybe your first question is, what is the first thing I should do? Or what's the third thing I should do? Yeah, but post the questions. I love that. So in the next, few years, because you mentioned about your husband's company and the transportation, the hay, do you also plan on bidding on any type of transportation or moving contract?
Probably so. I think that we had looked at a couple of like moving ones, and they were either like too close to the deadline, or because at the time I didn't know how to set up my notifications, but I do now. I think that we would probably more keen to like the different transportation ones. I know we saw some for like nitrous and stuff like that. So I think that would be really excited to do things like that and like leverage his expertise on that part. So I think that I have like a little bit of a cheat code having someone who has so much knowledge in different spaces, who can kind of talk the talk on certain things better than I can. So, but yeah, I'm excited. Definitely for the group. I think the group is the best space I've encountered. You know, I told you 1,000 times, your knowledge is invaluable. And I told you, like I said earlier, you're my Beyonce and I appreciate you. And I think that like 10 out of 10 recommend. I think that you probably don't even get the accolades that you deserve. But I am hopeful that you will. So I just think, I can't thank you enough. I think I've learned so much from you, from the group, and your kindness has been just remarkable. And just even the time you take to, with the Kizzy Network, like just putting everything out there, information, like invaluable, like information that people can actually put to work the next day. And I love how you show the different proposals that if you wanted to go submit this right now, you could. So I thank you for all that you do.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm blown away. I thank you for consuming, for your kind words, and for you acting. Because I just like to put stuff out there because, you know, I didn't know what I was doing for about 10 plus years. And so I just like to put out there based on my experience or what I've picked up along the way. So I commend you again for taking full advantage of the Facebook group and engaging with the Facebook group and acting on the content. Because some people, it's with anything in life. It's like we get information. It's like, oh man, I got to diet and exercise. Nah, they got another way. Okay, yeah, there's some other ways, you know, but you know, or I want to win a contract. Can I just middleman? Well, of course you can middleman, but you still have to like read.
You do work.
You still have to like get a cage code. Like you still have to do the work. Like I really can't think of too many businesses that are truly on autopilot. They may get to autopilot at some point in time, but I mean, even owning a McDonald's, like it seems like a lot. Like, ooh.
I think we have just the generation of like instantaneous. And I think that this is definitely the quickest way to end up behind bars or broke is to think that you're going to just, you know, get a contract and sit it, because that's not going to happen. Like the amount of information that because obviously like when you're getting a proposal, I take the meat and potatoes out. But whenever you're really in that space of trying to like formulate your quote and select a vendor, you better make sure that you have like read and understand everything in there. And sometimes it's a like really lengthy situation, but you need to make sure you're reading. And I feel like sometimes people will be offended in the group, but honestly, the things that people are saying in the group, I'd rather get it from y'all than a CEO ignore me. So I think that we have a lot of experts in that group who give so much great knowledge. It's crazy. Outside of like, you know, obviously we have you know, our ringleader, but also, you know, there's just a lot of people who have really great knowledge and feedback. So I think that it's definitely make sure that you're reading and that you're putting your best foot forward. Like you're trying to leverage what it is, you know, or find out a way to figure it out. You know what I mean? Instead of like, I guess just wanting everyone to kind of just push it for you or to just do it instantaneously. Like you can't, like how you always say, you can't sit and forget it. It's not a good idea. It might work once, twice, 3 times, but I can't see the longevity in that. And that's not being pessimistic. It's just like to protect yourself and your family and your assets, you better be reading your contracts on your own. So
you do, you know, this is not Ron Popeil. This is not the little pets on the thing where you would leave and go to school and come back and
Gigapets.
Gigapets.
Yes.
It's not a gigapet situation. This is, I mean, in reality, it's more like a plant and I'm talking about a cactus. Like this,
right.
Is a plant. Like you really have to nurture and water. So, you know, there's contracts that are, again, a little easier, but again, it's because of all this time and energy put into process procedures. That's why companies like a Burger King, Subway, and all of the, you know, Amazon, they're so successful because they have these processes and procedures in place. So when you're first starting out, there's no like setting it, forgetting it, or you're going to not have a contract.
Exactly.
Or I get my favorite, and this happens a lot, and I get it. Okay, I won, so I need to spend $50,000 on fencing materials. Well, you have to spend $1,000 on fencing materials. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. So especially for those who are gung-ho to go after products, like you ultimately have to have the money to pay for it. And so this is part of that. It doesn't mean you can't figure out an arrangement or what may have you, but it doesn't change the fact, like you're not going to place an order on Amazon for $50,000 and they're like, Krystyn, girl, just pay me when you want. Like you're not going to get anything on Amazon. If your card doesn't go through, you ain't getting nothing.
Exactly. But it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like you want to get started, but at the same time, you need to make sure like, okay, well, how will we get paid? Like when it comes down to the money of paying other people, you need to make sure that you're well aware. That's why I think whenever I'm like having conversations with other people and I'm like, oh, well, what do you think I should do? Services, babe. Services and get your terms met. Because if you don't have like the credit limits or, you know, a nice bank account, that's not going to work out in your favor and you don't want to give it back. Don't give it back. You need to figure out a way to finance, sell a liver, sell your kidney or something, but you know, giving it back, it's just kind of set yourself up. It's fun. You know, products seem like they're easy and I think they can be, you know, if you have that financial cash flow up front. But if you're starting out and you are working a normal 9-to-5 like I do, you should think twice maybe about going straight to products, especially if it's like such a big amount of money, like $200,000, etc. So,
yeah, definitely. I mean, again, I'm there with you. It's just, I don't know what to say. I mean, we've sold some products, just a few, and I think it's a lovely space. It's with most things in life as an entrepreneur. There's pros and there's cons, and you have to figure it out. I love services. That's where I started out. You definitely have better net terms, so you can pay your team within a certain amount of days of you getting paid. And it goes back to the mentality. Like often that's the case in services, is that you're paid typically after the fact, where with products, if they give you the product and you don't pay them, then we're having a whole situation. And so it's just something to think about, because there's no giving back like this. Because I've seen that too, like, oh, I'm going to give this back. Like, y'all, this is not a return. This isn't Amazon, this isn't Target, this isn't Walmart. Like, this is business. So if you give it back, then
why would I want to get one?
Right. Then what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think that people just have to get more well aware of their capabilities. And I think that, so I'm delusional. And I think that's why I get successful in certain areas. But there's like a certain level of like delusion you have to be. You can't be like overly delusional, like, oh, well, you know, 800 grand is going to pop into my bank account to cover all of this tomorrow. I hope so. But, you know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. But we just have to be aware of like our financial means and what people are expecting to get paid. Like insert War Dogs. Like that is the best movie I think that anybody can watch to get yourself prepared of what happens when you don't do things right.
Yeah, you definitely do. You definitely do. And it's a must watch for everyone, War Dogs, and to be prepared. Because unless it's just you doing the thing, most of the opportunities, it's going to involve you and somebody else, right? For the products, whether it's somebody you've subcontract, whether even printing, even with our training, we use a printing company. Like very rarely was it, even in the beginning, was it ever like just me? I was still including somebody else. So because of that, you just gotta be mindful of it.
Right, and communicating like effectively and efficiently, like your expectations and all that stuff up front. That way you don't end up with your hands in your pockets looking crazy. And please, people, always have an email paper trail, because you don't want somebody coming back saying that, oh, I never told you net 30. And you make sure that you have it in an email, and you make sure that that teaming agreement calls out that net 30, because that's like the last thing you want is for them coming back. So
that's such great advice. You got to have that. One more item. What is, given your project management background, what is the like number one project management thing people need to be doing? Like if you don't do this, it's like destruction. Like you need to do this.
There's so many. I would say the number one thing that will result in failure is not having a project plan, especially when it comes down to services, because your project plan encompasses everything, right? You have your budget, you have how you want your project to be executed, your points of contact, all that stuff. So if you don't have, especially those expectations set in that project plan, My mama always told me, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And I think that that really resonates within the project management world, especially dealing with services and that you aren't a part of, and especially if it's services where you're not able to put your eyes on it. You need to make sure you have a plan, you have checkpoints in with the vendor that you're using. I know with myself, that is a huge thing. And then also always creating some type of cushion, because I've seen a couple contracts where they have like liquidated damages. You don't want that to come onto you. So you want to make sure, you have your float. But yes, number one thing is to have a project plan. I think that is it's very key in either your success or your failure.
Yes, I love that. And however you want to do it, if it's an Excel sheet, it's a Word document, it's Monday, it's Asana, it doesn't matter.
Right.
As long as you plan.
Yeah, and I think that's really, you can, I guess, interchange it with the kickoff meeting, but essentially you want to have something where everybody is understanding of what's supposed to happen, and you have traceability that everybody understands. Like, you understood and you signed off on this. So I think that's just the number one thing is your project plan for sure.
I love that. Well, I can't thank you enough, Krystyn, for being here. I've loved it. I'm so grateful to you, so grateful for your help in the Facebook group, and also to all my amazing GovCon winners. Don't forget to hit the notification button, hit like, hit share. Check out the Facebook group if you haven't joined. Check out profitablecontracts.co. And until next time, everything is possible.